Welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy, Teilhard de Chardin, part 24. Hey, Editor Edward, why am I listening to a man grunting?
There's a woman's voice there, too, doing a kind of breathy, sexual sigh, like...
So there is.
You know how you always hear, like, Catholics talk about how the church is the bride and Jesus is the bridegroom?
Right.
Well, I figured this is basically what the wedding night would sound like, you know?
Makes sense to me. Good choice. Keep up the good work. Alright, so today we're going to be picking up right where we left off last time. Right where somebody left off last time. In The Divine Milieu by Teilhard de Chardin. And we're in the middle of a section, so... if you would like to, if you're not all caught up, maybe you want to check out the playlist. You can start with the first episode, or you can see the one right before this to know what we're picking up right in the middle of. Here we go. Editor Edward, on the theme of husband and wife, in the midst of their private time, Ravel was inspired by that very activity when he composed Bolero.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
Cool, thanks. In our hands, in the hands of all of us, the world and life, parentheses, our world, our life, end parentheses, are placed like a host with a capital H, so you know he's talking about the little bread, ready to be charged with the divine influence, that is to say, with a real presence of the incarnate Word. The mystery will be accomplished, but on one condition, which is that we shall believe that this has the will and the power to become for us the action. That is to say, the prolongation of the body of Christ. If we believe, then everything is illuminated and takes shape around us. Chance is seen to be order. Success assumes an incorruptible plenitude. Suffering becomes a visit and a caress of God. But if we hesitate, the rock remains dry, the sky dark, the waters treacherous and shifting, and we may hear the voice of the Master faced with our bungled lives. Quote, "O men of little faith, why have you doubted? ... Question mark. End quote. Domine adjuva incredulitatem meam. Editor Edward, would you?
That is from Mark, the Gospel according to Mark, chapter 9, verse 24. I believe, Lord, but help thou my lack of belief.
Thank you. Ah, you know it yourself, Lord, through having borne the anguish of it as man. On certain days, the world seems a terrifying thing, huge, blind, and brutal. It buffets us about, drags us along, and kills us with complete indifference. Heroically, it may truly be said, man has contrived to create a more or less habitable zone of light and warmth in the midst of the great, cold, black waters, a zone where people have eyes to see, hands to help, and hearts to love. But how precarious that habitation is. At any moment, the vast and horrible thing may break in through the cracks. The thing which we try hard to forget is always there, separated from us by a flimsy partition. Fire, pestilence, storms, earthquakes, or the unleashing of dark moral forces, these callously sweep away in one moment what we had laboriously built up and beautified with all our intelligence and all our love. Since my dignity as a man, O God, forbids me to close my eyes to this, like an animal or a child, that I may not succumb to the temptation to curse the universe and him who made it, teach me to adore it by seeing you concealed within it. O Lord, repeat to me the great liberating words, the words which at once reveal and operate. Hoc est corpus meum. This is my body. That one I know. In truth, the huge and dark thing, the phantom, the storm, if we want it to be so, is you. Ego sum nolite timere. Editor Edward.
That is from the Gospel according to John, chapter 6, verse 20. Don't be afraid, it's only me.
Thank you. The things in our life which terrify us, the things that threw you yourself into agony in the garden, are ultimately only the species or appearance, the matter of one and the same sacrament. We have only to believe, and the more threatening and irreducible reality appears, the more firmly and desperately we must believe. Then, little by little, we shall see the universal horror unbend, and then smile upon us, and then take us in its more than human arms. No, it is not the rigid determinism of matter and of large numbers, but the subtle combinations of the spirit that give the universe its consistency. The immense hazard and the immense blindness of the world are only an illusion to him who believes. Fides sus substantia rerum. Editor Edward.
This seems to be a reference to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, the whole quote being, Est autem fides separandarum substantia rerum argumentum non apparentium, which translates to, faith is the hypostasis of things hoped for, the proof of things not seen. But the way he's abridged it, it seems to mean faith, the substance of things.
Thank you, Editor Edward. And that is the end of Roman numeral 2, called Faith, in the subsection B, which is individual progress in the divine milieu, purity, faith, and fidelity, which is a subsection of part 3, the growth of the divine milieu, of part 3 of the book, part 3 is entitled The Divine Milieu, and the book is entitled The Divine Milieu. So if you know your address, city, state, country, planet, solar system, galaxy, now you know where you are in the book. Editor Edward.
Yes?
Something, just in reference to what you had said earlier, I can't help wondering, when a priest fossilizes and jewels and the cat and then with the altar boy, would that be considered adultery or just jilling off?
Well, it's a felony, first of all.
Right, obviously.
I think the priest should not only be defrocked, but should go to prison.
I know, but I mean, as far as if we extend the metaphor of the bride and the bridegroom, then if things like that are going on, as it were, within the bride, without the bridegroom involved, then would that be a form of adultery or just masturbation?
All right. If we insist on stretching the metaphor this far, which gets pretty interesting when you look at Romans 12, where it talks about how every person in the church is a different body part of the body of Christ. But anyway, right. So since this activity is going on within the Catholic Church and is not, connected to the groom, then in a sense, it's masturbation. But don't forget that the Master Jesus did say that even if you look upon somebody with lust in your heart, you are already committing adultery with them in your heart. How much the more so if you're actually touching yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, all right, that was it. I just had to get that out of my head. Okay, so this is Roman numeral 3, fidelity. Right on the subjects that we were just discussing. Right? Because we have believed intensely with a pure heart in the world will open the arms of God to us. It is for us to throw ourselves into these arms so that the divine milieu should close around our lives like a circle. That gesture of ours will be one of an active response to our daily task. Faith consecrates the world. Fidelity communicates with it. To give a worthy description of the, quote, advantages, end quote, of fidelity, that is to say, of the essential and final part which it plays in our taking possession of the divine milieu, we should have to go back to what was said in the first 2 parts of this study. For it is fidelity which releases the inexhaustible resources offered by every, quote, passion, end quote, to our desire for communion. Through fidelity, we sinuate ourselves and maintain ourselves. I've never seen that word without in as part of it. Sinuate, as in insinuate. Maybe I'm the last one to realize that everybody uses that word on a daily basis. Edward, you're just behind the times. No, this is translation of a French book from 70 years ago. So. Anyway, in the hands of God, so exactly as to become one with them in their action. Through fidelity, we open ourselves so intimately and continuously to the wishes and good pleasure of God that his life penetrates and assimilates ours like a fortifying bread. Hoc est cibus meus ut faciam voluntatem patris. Sorry for mixing up my pronunciations. Threw a little bit of ancient Latin into the ecclesiastic, and so it just sounded like gibberish.
No need to apologize. I'm pretty sure that was from John chapter 4, verse 34. My food is to do the will of my Father.
And finally, through fidelity, we find ourselves at every moment situated at the exact point at which the whole bundle of inward and outward forces of the world converge providentially upon us. That is to say, at the point where the divine milieu can, at a given moment, be made real for us. It is fidelity and fidelity alone that enables us to welcome the universal and perpetual overtures of the divine milieu, semicolon. Through fidelity and fidelity alone can we return to God, the kiss he is forever offering us across the world. What is without price in the, quote, communicating, end quote, power of fidelity is that, like the power possessed by faith and purity, it knows no limits to its efficacy. There is no limit in respect of the work done or the diminishment undergone, because we can always sink ourselves deeper into the perfecting of work to be achieved or into the better utilization of distressing events. We can always be more industrious, more meticulous, more flexible. Nor is there any limit in respect of the intention which animates our endeavor to act or to accept, because we can always go further in the inward perfecting of our conformity. There can always be greater detachment and greater love. And there is no limit. Indeed, there is still less limit in respect of the divine object, in the ever closer espousal of which our being can joyfully wear itself away. This is the moment to abandon all conception of static adherence. It can only be inadequate, and let us remember this. God does not offer himself to our finite beings as a thing all complete and ready to be embraced. For us, he is eternal discovery and eternal growth. The more we think we understand him, the more he reveals himself as otherwise. The more we think we hold him, the further he withdraws, drawing us into the depths of himself. The nearer we approach him through all the efforts of nature and grace, the more he increases. In one and the same movement, his attraction over our powers. What? His attraction over our powers, yeah. And the receptivity of our powers to that divine attraction. Thus, the privileged point which was mentioned a short time back, the one point at which the divine milieu may be born for each man at each moment, is not a fixed point in the universe, but a moving center which we have to follow, like the Magi their star. That star leads each man differently, by a different path, in accord with his vocation. Within the one true and holy Roman Catholic Church, I presume, Mr. Teilhard. Careful. That was editorial commentary with a layer of irony. Yeah, no. But all the paths which it indicates have this in common, that they always lead upward. Parentheses, we have already said these things more than once, but it is important to group them together for the last time in the same bundle. End parentheses. Careful with that bundle metaphor, Mr. Teilhard. In any case, sticks. Just kidding. In any existence, if it has fidelity, greater desires follow on lesser ones. Renunciation gradually gains mastery over pleasure. Death consummates life. Finally, the general drift throughout creation will have been the same for all. Sometimes through detachment of mind, sometimes through effective detachment, fidelity leads us all, more or less fast and more or less far, towards the same zone of minimal egoism and minimal pleasure, to where, for the more ecstatic creature, the divine light glows with greater amplitude and greater limpidity, beyond the intermediaries which have been not rejected, but outstripped. Under the converging action of these three rays, purity, faith, and fidelity, the world melts and folds. Like a huge fire that is fed by what should normally extinguish it, or like a mighty torrent which is swelled by the very obstacles placed to stem it, so the tension engendered by the encounter between man and God dissolves, bears along and volatilizes created things, and makes them all equally serve the cause of union. joys, advances, sufferings, setbacks, mistakes, works, prayers, beauties. The powers of heaven, earth, and hell, everything bows down under the touch of the heavenly waves, and everything yields up the portion of positive energy contained within its nature so as to contribute to the richness of the divine milieu. He said the thing. Like the jet of flame that effortlessly pierces the hardest metal, so the spirit drawn to God penetrates through the world and makes its way enveloped in the luminous vapors of what it sublimates within. It does not destroy things, nor distort them, but it liberates things, directs them, transfigures them, animates them. It does not leave things behind, but as it rises, it leans on them for support, and carries along with it the chosen part of things: purity, faith, and fidelity. Static virtues and operative virtues, you are truly, in your serenity, nature's noblest energies. Those which give even the material world its final consistency and its ultimate shape. You are the formative principles of the new earth. Through you, threefold aspect of a same trusting adoration, quote, we shall overcome the world, end quote. Haec est quae vincit mundum fides nostra. Editor Edward.
That's from 1 John, first letter of John? I don't know the Bible. Chapter 5, verse 4. It translates to, and this is the victory that overcomes the world, our faith.
Thank you, Editor Edward. That's the end of the section. And just to be different, I thought it might be nice to finish a recital with the closing of a section in order to allow for next time the beginning of an episode with the beginning of a section rather than jumping in the middle. You know, it's just a subtle difference, but yeah. So, we just got back. It's not yet the 24th, if for those who are watching these in order that they're released, regardless of which book we're reading, you know, by date as opposed to by book or whatever. Anyway, yeah, we just got back. It's the 22nd, settling in here, decided to do this silly, silly, serious, whatever. It's is what it is. Recital for today, and as you can see, I'm still wearing my birthday hat. Let's show a little bit of footage from the festivities.
Happy birthday, Babu!
Thank you.
I think that means I'll get my wish, but it might take a little extra work.
All right. I'm sure you just saw something. Even been wearing this very same outfit. There was a short that I posted. Let's just play that short.
Happy my birthday from Chicken Philosophy. It's after midnight here in India on September 21st. If you would like to celebrate with us, just click the link that says Carl Jung Part 53 and skip to minute 49.
Yeah, me and my shameless self-promotion. So yeah, if you want to, you can check out Carl Jung 53, skip to minute 49, and find out what all the hubbub is about. Oh, I was going to do something. For those of you who are still here, you're gonna walk away from this episode with a free book in your Kindle app. Free, absolutely free. Wasn't free now. What? Isn't free as I'm talking to you? But Editor Edward, is it free now?
It'll be free starting midnight Pacific time on the morning of September 23rd. So if you stay up late on the 22nd, you can get it after midnight. And it'll be free through the end of the 27th, up until midnight, the night of the 27th, the morning of the 28th.
All right, so he just gave you the details about when it's going to be free. So if you started watching this video the moment it went live on YouTube, it might not be free yet, but it will be, I think, probably tomorrow would be my guess, and for 5 days. But which book? That's a good question. See, every like 2 or 3 months I'm allowed to do this free book thing, but I have a lot of books. So let's have a little bit of fun here. Editor Edward, can you make this not so long and tedious? All right. So going in the order in which they were released, Thomas and the Wolf, my first book, we'll call that the number 1. The second book that I put out there was The Small Gray Mouse and Other Short Stories, so we'll call that 2. Next, I think what I did was I published all my poetry. I thought I was publishing all my poetry in the book called Taco. So we'll call that 3. And then what happened? What was next? I think maybe Sonnet 1 was next. This, obviously, someone mishandled it at some point. So yeah, this one's nicer. So better to show one that isn't flawed as much when I'm, So, okay, so this is, I wrote this program in BASIC. So in 1980s, like back when programming was cool, like, Kevin Flynn and all that. So Sonnet 1 looks like me because of Tron, right? And he writes poetry. So I will just real quick read you the first couple lines of Sonnet number 1234, called Explodes Freakily by Foments Subtly. It's by Sonnet 1, but he likes to put in funny author names like pen names or whatever. Anyway, when is it that a plastic hurts all over a shoe? The comfortable flings spank righteously for the town. So if you want thousands of poems like that, that's not the whole poem, that's the first 2 lines, obviously. It's a sonnet, so it's got 14 lines. Anyway, so, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then what happened? I think at some point in there, I published my dad's book, Transformations, really good book. So we'll put that here. And then what happened after that? Then what did I do first? I'm just going to go ahead and say I published Smaller Mouse, right, which is more short stories. And then after that, I published my second poetry compilation, which is like half poetry that like would have gone in that book if I had realized, like, oh, I'm forgetting 300 pages of poetry to put it in my 600 page. It would have been 900 pages. It's better this way. 600 pages, 600 pages. So there's 2 poetry books. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 7 is E Burrito. And number 8, we're going to call the Multiverse Cartographer. And number 9, the DNA Alphabet, under the name Frater BT. You know him by now, right? So that's number 9. Now, I've got here a 10-sided die. It's got 1 through 9 and a 0. And we're going to see what it just landed on. It landed on 1. Thomas and the Wolf is going to be free for 5 days. Click in the link in the description below to get your free copy. Assuming that it's exactly when, Editor Edward? It's free starting midnight on the morning of September 23rd, midnight Pacific time. It's free until the night of the 27th, that night at midnight. Right. So follow Editor Edward's instructions there, and you'll get yourself a free copy on Kindle of Thomas and the Wolf. If you want to, you can just get yourself a physical copy by clicking paperback instead of Kindle. But anyway, that's my little birthday giveaway for you. Yeah. And Taco, we did a giveaway recently. I don't know, I think it's not within the 5 days anymore. And then, of course, the other one, the New World Empire and the Interdimensional Coffee House, we did a 5-day free giveaway thing recently. So we'll have to wait a couple of months at least before we can do that again for those two. And I won't do this in every episode, but every once in a while, just for fun. And of course, next time it'll be Gwydion reading Martin Luther, which he loves doing. So that'll be something to look forward to. We'll see how he handles that. And all right, I guess that's it. And happy my birthday, belatedly, since it was yesterday. And until next time. Bye-bye.